this is Lisa Norton.
And this is Laura Smack.
And we are going to work on month 4 today of Rough Waters Block the Month pattern. So month 4, we're going to do feature blocks D, E, and F. So block D is this cute little sailboat. So we got 4 sails and a sailboat there. And so the instructions tell you you're going to cut 2 3-inch squares, 2 2.5-inch by 4.5-inch rectangles, and 2 2.5-inch squares of this pretty light blue. Then in the blue dot, you're going to cut 1 2.5 by 8.5 by rectangle. And the dark brown dot, it's another 2.5 by 8.5-inch rectangle. And then you're going to do 2 3-inch squares out of the cream fabric. So the first thing that we're going to make is the half square triangles. So on the wrong side of your cream fabric, you're going to draw a diagonal line with either a fabric pencil or a mechanical pencil, and then you're going to sew 1/4 inch on each side of that drawn line. And then you're going to cut right on that drawn line so that you're going to end up getting 2 half square triangles, just like that. So this one here is cut, so you see we have 2 half square triangles, but you're really not done. You're going to need to square these to 2.5 inches. So we'll give you a little demo.
Rotary cutter, if you want to snag a ruler there.
So I'm going to just line it up on that pencil line.
Iron hot.
Flat hand. I'm cut these 2 apart, and then we're going to press the seam towards the darker color. Now we're going to square these to 2.5 inches. So when we square it to 2.5 inches, there's 2 ways that you can do that. You can use your square with a diagonal line, which then we'll put right on the line of the seam. You'll find 2.5 inches, sort of split the difference. There's not a lot that you should be cutting off. It should just be slivers. And you'll square it and then switch this around and do it again. Always keeping this diagonal line right on the seam, because our goal is to keep the seam corner to corner.
Well, let me press this one up, Lisa, and then you'll be able to square it up.
And then my other favorite tool is a block lock. Now the block locks will come in different sizes. Actually, I have a 2.5-inch block lock, but I left it at home, and Laura prefers the bigger one.
I prefer the bigger one. I like how it slides back and forth.
So when you use the block lock, the logo is generally on the lighter fabric, and if you're pressing towards the dark, you'll feel like there's a little hump there. So you put this ridge that's on the back of the block lock right on that ridge. You see how I can slide up and down on that ridge? And so I slide it down just before my 2.5-inch mark. I'm going to trim off slivers on this side. Trim off slivers there. And then we can slide it. Oops, I didn't do a very good job sliding, but we can slide to the other end, line up that 2.5 inches, and do it again.
And a perfect 2.5-inch.
And there you go. And see how just very little bits that you're trimming off. If you're trimming off more than that, you might be measuring the wrong size for your block lock. Another tip is if you have the logo on the correct side, it's usually on the lighter fabric, but if you accidentally switch it, you see how you're not going to be measuring really well here?
You're getting rectangles instead of squares.
And that's where we can easily make our mistakes. So just double check that you're only cutting slivers, and that block lock logo will be on your lighter fabric. So after we've got these cut, bring this back in, we're going to be arranging our sail pieces like the diagram. So just like that. Now, of course, this one wasn't trimmed just yet, but for time. And you're going to sew the top 2 together. You'll sew the bottom 2 together. You'll press the seams in opposite directions, just like the diagram. And then these will fit on, you'll just sew 1 to each side. So we're going to take a minute and get that sewn for you. Alrighty, ready to set sail. So we're just going to then sew these 2 pieces on. So I'm going to hand that off to Laura for her to do that.
Where's the pins? I'm gonna go get my pins.
Well, go put in your pins. And then I'm going to show you the next piece. So out of the boat piece, this is a 2.5 by 8.5 rectangle out of the brown. You're going to lay a 2.5 inch square on each end. But first you're going to draw a line corner to corner and position them like the diagram. And you're going to sew right on that drawn line this time. And you'll be pressing the seam or pressing the triangle like the diagram shows, but it's out towards the corner so that you get this nice looking boat. Then when we we're going to trim off the excess here after we press it. Well, that's why I've got it folded over. So Laura was saying, don't forget to audition. So what she means is that before trimming this piece here, fold this down to make sure everything lines up. And if it doesn't line up, either your square is not square, and to seam rip it and try it again. So that looks good. So I think I can go ahead, press it, we'll cut these triangles away, and then we'll sew on this piece to the bottom of the boat here. So it'll look something like that. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, we've got our two pieces. So our next step is just to go ahead and sew this on, and then block D will be ready to set sail.
Oh,
this one was so fun. I'm ready to sew it again. We only just finished.